Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is OneSkill, and in today's video I'd like to talk with you about the grid. Have you ever got this feeling that when you're creating your slide you see that some of the objects are not coming together, with the rest of the slide design? You are missing, structure, balance, and you just have to do something. And you know what? In today's video I would like to show you a solution, the grid, that you can use to structure your layout. So in today's video I'll show you step by step how you can create this grid and how you can use it in making your beautiful PowerPoint presentations. So let's go. Let me introduce to you a couple of concepts that will help you understand better how this whole grid is constructed. So first of all, we will add a couple of margins around the corners of the slide. I'll show you how it's done. So margins will basically help us to have a safe area around the edges of the slide, and we will make sure that no slide content goes into the margins. So this is our safe area. Next, we will add 12 columns to our grid. So these white columns, as you can see here, we'll have 12 of them. You can have 10 columns, you can have 8 columns, as much as you want. I think 12 columns really gives us quite a lot of layout possibilities, and I'll show you how to work with them. Next, we will have some spacing between the columns, because spacing as well helps us, helps our slide content to breathe. So that's really useful to have some spaces, and these spaces are called gutters or column gutters, and we'll have 11 column gutters, 12 columns, 11 column gutters. And after that we will add some horizontal spacing. So these are basically row gutters, and we'll have 5 row gutters. So don't worry, I'll show you step by step how to create all of this in PowerPoint. And if we would remove all of the colors, we would get something like this. So this is just the outlines of our grid. Let me actually change the color of the outlines so that you can better see how this grid looks like. So here on the sides we have this safe area, our margin, and here we have our 12 columns, we have our column gutters, and we have the row gutters. And inside of here we can start blocking out our content. So for example, we have this huge rectangle on the right, we have some smaller boxes here on the left, we have this long one here at the bottom, and we can add some content into those blocks, and we end up with beautiful looking balanced slide design. All right, so let's do everything step by step so that you understand how you can create this kind of grid. And ladies and gentlemen, you might be wondering, where did I get all of this knowledge about the columns, rows and gutters and grids? So I have recently finished a class on Skillshare.com. The class is called Graphic Design Basics, Core Principles for Visual Design, and I've learned principles such as scale, framing, hierarchy and grids that will help us to create much more beautiful slides.
We will walk you through the process of creating a basic page layout. You will follow a process from beginning to end. You could use anything. You could use Illustrator. You could use PowerPoint, whatever program you're comfortable in.
You will learn ideas and principles that can be applied to any visual layout.
Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of classes covering dozens of creative and entrepreneurial skills. Premium membership gives you unlimited access so you can join the classes and communities that are just right for you. Whether you want to fuel your curiosity, creativity, or even career, Skillshare is the perfect place to keep you learning and thriving. Because Skillshare is sponsoring this video, you can sign up with the link in the video description and get 2 months of Skillshare Premium for absolutely free. And before we dive into the action, I just would like to show you one more thing. You might be wondering that to create all of this grid is quite a lot of work, and you just could use the grid that is provided by PowerPoint. You can go to View and choose Gridlines. They're not so much visible, but still you can see there's some kind of boxes here. But I find these grid lines not so much customizable. I think you can choose, how dense those grids are. Now, as you can see here, we have less points and so on. But for example, if you would like to change the number of rows or the number of columns, I don't think it's possible to do it with this, Gridlines functionality. So that's why we will do it by hand, by drawing some beautiful rectangles. All right. So let me just make sure I choose blank slide layout. And first of all, let's insert some beautiful margins. Let's create our safe area. So for this, just go to Insert Shapes and choose Rectangle. So let's make our rectangle white, for example. Let's make it, for the outlines, let's choose, for example, a black color so that you can better see it. And let's just make the width, for example, 1.5 centimeters. So this is the width of the margins. So you can make it, you can make the width, any number that you want. I think that 1.5 looks beautiful. So make sure it touches top and bottom of the slide. We can duplicate this rectangle and align it to the right side. So now we have margins on the left and right. Now let's duplicate this guy. Let's rotate it 90 degrees. Let's align it like this to the side. Let's drag it so that we have the top margin as well. And we can duplicate it again, align it to the center and align it to the bottom. All right. So now we have created our margins. So we can, hit Control A to select everything. We can fill them with the blue color, remove the outlines, and we basically have the same result that I have shown you previously. But let's leave it like this, and let's select all of them, and I think we can reduce the width of the outline a little bit. Yeah, I think it looks a little bit more nicer. All right, so we have created our margins. And now let me show you how we can create those column gutters. So let's just duplicate this margin on the left side, hit Ctrl D to duplicate. Let's make sure that it touches this top margin and it touches this bottom margin. All right. And for this column gutter width, let's enter 0.7 centimeters, something like this. And as you remember, we need to have 11 column gutters. So let me just duplicate this guy. So this is number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. All right. And now let's just select this margin on the right side and let's select all of these guys. Well, you know what? Let's just hit Ctrl A to select everything, and let's just hold down the Shift key to deselect this top margin and this bottom margin. And now we will use this arrange function called distribute horizontally. And this way we will have perfectly distributed column gutters, and at the same time we have these columns that we can work with. Beautiful. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 columns and 11 gutters, and we have some margins on the side. That's beautiful. And now all that's left to do is to create a couple of rows or row gutters. So let me just duplicate this one. Let's flip it horizontally like that. Let's make sure it touches the left margin and it touches the right margin. Let's make sure that it has the width 0.7. Okay, and now let's just duplicate it a couple of times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I think 5 is enough. Let's hold down the Shift key and select all of these row gutters and these margins at the top and bottom. And now let's choose distribute vertically. Beautiful. So now we are finished with our grid. We can actually select all of them, Ctrl A, and let's remove the fill so that we can better see all of the lines. Beautiful. All right. So now we can hit Ctrl A to select everything and Ctrl G to group everything. We can even reduce the color of the outlines so it looks a little bit more subtle. Something like this, all right, and we can start, creating some content. So let me just quickly remember what I've done in the previous slide. So we have these boxes. So let's start with this one. Well, I could actually copy it like this, but yeah, let's do it. I'll save some time. Well, let me just show you one box, how you can create it. So of course, let's just go to Insert, Shapes, choose a rectangle, and now let's just draw a rectangle. We can add a little bit of transparency so that we can better see what's going on behind the rectangle. And as you can see, grid is useful because, let me just remove the outlines from this rectangle. Grid is really useful because, when you're drawing a rectangle, it snaps, to the grid lines. So that's really, really useful. Okay, so we had a rectangle which spans 1, 2, 3, 4 columns wide, okay? So 1, 2, 3, like this. We had one below, so let me just duplicate for this one. Next we have a block which spans 4 columns, like this, and 3 columns down. Duplicate as well, and 3 columns down, okay. And now we have this huge rectangle which spans 6 columns to the width. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it goes down like this. And here at the bottom we have this long block of content. So you can fill these blocks with anything that you want, and of course you can create any layout that you want. This is just a layout I came up with, but of course, feel free to do anything that you want. By the way, you can always go to the selection pane and you can just rename your grid, because this group 23, this is our grid. We can rename it grid. Beautiful. And you can always hide it. Just click on this eyeball and you'll see your slide content without a grid. And if you need the grid, just click on the eyeball again. Alright, so let's fill these beautiful blue blocks with some content. Let me see what I had in my previous presentation. So here at the top we have this title, the grid. So let's insert it right here as well. So we could actually double click this block and type the text directly into it. But I think we have more flexibility if we go just to insert and choose a text box and, create a text box separately. So let's just type in the grid. The grid, all right, let's increase the font size. Let's make sure that the text is aligned to the right side. And now we'll have to try our best to fill this, blue block with this text as much as possible so that everything will be looking beautiful. Okay, so we can change the font size to Railway, for example. Let's add some boldness. Okay, for the font size, I think we can reduce it to 69. And we can even play with the letter spacing. We can try tight. Let's see how it looks like. I think it looks good. I think it was looking good with the normal as well. You can use the arrow keys to fine-tune the positioning of this text box. Beautiful. All right, next we had some text box core principle for visual design. So I think we can copy this text from this Skillshare course on the graphic design basics. So this is the exact course where I have learned about all of these, gutters and columns and grids. So let's copy this text box and let's paste it right here. Okay, let's make sure the font color is black. Hello? Yes, black. Okay, so let's increase the font size. Let's make sure it's Railway. think we can have 2 rows like this, aligned to the right side. Okie dokie. And for the font size, let's try 32. We have 32, and I think in this case we can play with the paragraph spacing, with the line spacing. As you can see, these 2 lines of text, they have some space, and we can change that space to, for example, exactly 22.2 points, just for fun. Oh, I think that's too much. Let's try exactly, for example, something like this. 37, 34. Yeah, I think looks good enough. Okay, so as you can see, we're trying to fit these blocks, these blue blocks, blue. Tried to say blue blocks 3 times in a row. I think it's really hard. Okay, so we have these 2 blue blocks filled with some text boxes. And now let's continue with this one. So let's see what we had here. We had some text box, so we had some text about the grid. I think I have found this text somewhere here on the course page as well. So as you can see, in this course, in these lessons, you learn about the principles of graphic design basics, core principles. One of them is grid, so let's just copy this text about the grid and let's just paste it like this. Okay, let's make sure it's aligned to the right side, Okay, let's make sure we have railway font, and let's reduce the font size to 16. And now let's just, now let's just position our text box like this. Okay. Beautiful. And I think this text box really nicely fits this blue block. We can even play a little bit with the paragraph spacing. Let's try, for example, 22. Yeah. Nice. Okay. All right. And now here for this blue, for this block on the right side, let's fill it with a photo. And I think we can use this photo from unsplash.com. As always, we can find a bunch of beautiful pictures here. Let's just copy it. Link is in the video description for this exact photo. So let's paste this photo right here. We can just send this photo to back. Let's increase its size. Let's make sure that it covers this whole big blue block on the right side. And now we can select the photo, hold down the shift key, select this blue block, go to shape format, merge shapes and choose intersect. And this way we have perfectly cropped our photo. Let's just make sure that the grid is sent to back like this. And I think we can actually delete these blocks, these blue blocks. We don't need them anymore. Let me just send to back this text box, and now we can delete this blue box. All right, and now for the outlines of the grid, we can reduce, we can change the color to something even lighter, something like this, so it's easier to look at it. And for this guy, let me show you how I have created this this funny looking graphical element. Because now, as you can see, if we would preview the slide, it does not look complete because here at the bottom we have some empty space. So I just decided to insert some random graphical element, and let me show you how I made it. Let's just go to shapes, choose freeform. So now just click once here. Whoops. not freeform. I think it's called, yeah, it's actually freeform. But click once, click twice, click here again, and repeat the steps like this. As you can see, this last stroke just goes out a little bit, but it's okay, it's fine. And we can change the outline to black, and we can set the fill to black. And this way, by setting the fill to this kind of, graphical element, we get this interesting looking fill. And we can go to selection pane. We can click on the eyeball icon to hide the grid. Zoom out so that we can see our whole slide. And voila, ladies and gentlemen, this is how you can create the grid first of all, and after that, how you can use the grid to create a perfectly balanced slide layout. It might seem that it takes a lot of time, and it does for the first time, but after that you can reuse your slide grid and it goes much faster later on. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.